We had a good conversation yesterday morning between 8:30 and 9 o'clock with Dr. Jonathan Tripp from Tripp Family Medicine right here in Twin Falls, Idaho. We were talking about concussions. We may have to get back to that subject because we were leaving people on the phones who couldn't get through. We want to remind you Dr. Tripp or one of his associates joins us in studio every Wednesday morning between 8:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning. We call it Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine, and this is an opportunity for you as well. If you have a health question and you'd like to run that by the doctor or one of the other medical professionals, give us a telephone call and they'll point you in the right direction. It's a wonderful public service that we do here at News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Want to remind you his office is located on Fillmore Street, directly across from the main post office. And as he likes to say, life's too short not to feel good. I read a story the other day, Kentucky, which is a state back, in the east, actually in the Allegheny, south of the Allegheny Range, Appalachian Range, Alleghenies being just a smaller part of that range. But Kentucky being one of America's probably more rural states and one of America's more conservative states was actually the first state because they had a Democrat as governor. I think his name was Brashear or something along those lines. He's on his way out. They're going to have a Republican taking his place shortly. He was among the first people to jump on the bandwagon with Common Core. In fact, Kentucky was the first state in the Union to adopt it. It's 9:34. Bill Colley with you at Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 39. So Kentucky has been with Common Core longer than any other state in the Union. Now, there are people who are objecting to it, saying it has to go, that they have to scrap it. Guess where the opposition is coming from? College professors. I mean, they're even more liberal and left-leaning than reporters in this country. College professors in Kentucky are saying that they are seeing students come to college and they have to start all over with them with their education because of the shortcomings of Common Core. And they are now calling on the state to drop it and to go back to a more traditional method of educating children. Are we surprised by that? When even the left starts agreeing with the right on a particular topic, we likely can say there is consensus in this country. So let's get rid of it. I think that's the call that's being made on this. Today at the Washington Times, Common Core's double whammy. This comes from a writer by the name of David V. Anderson, and he works in an office that studies education issues for a larger organization called the Heartland Institute. Some of the most reliable yardsticks, he writes, in monitoring academic progress in K-12 education are the assessments known as the Nation's Report Card. Officially, the National Assessment of Educational Progress. The results from its 2015 assessments are in, and these are not encouraging. He goes on to say, and I'm reading this directly from his column today, this period of study coincides with the rollout of Common Core academic standards and their accompanying testing programs in many states. He does admit we need more evidence if we are to confirm our suspicions. We looked at the results state by state. We grouped states according to the participation in Common Core. Did they formally adopt the standards without rescinding them? Did they participate, he writes, in one or the other official Common Core testing consortia? After grouping the 50 states and the District of Columbia accordingly, we found this. Every grouping showed a drop in proficiencies. That would be math and reading. In math, these declines were 0.5% worse for Common Core states. In reading, these declines were 1% worse for Common Core states. He says the direct effect of Common Core is attributed to actual changes in instructional practices within those states implementing some or all of the Common Core standards. The indirect effect of Common Core is an informal one within non-participating states wherein some changes have been made toward Common Core without actual formal involvement. Common Core has not brought, he writes, any improvements in the important subjects of mathematics and reading. In fact, the presence of this unfortunate experiment correlates with performance degradation in both subjects. The man who really helped get Common Core going is a fellow by the name of Jack Markell. He's about 5 feet 4 inches tall. Top of his head looks like a bullet. He shaved his head because there wasn't much hair left up there. He is the socialist governor of Delaware, one of my old nemesis. I used to have to battle that guy frequently. In fact, I used to needle him when he'd be on the air with us about Common Core because he was on that committee, and it was a committee mainly of bureaucrats. Oh, they say they consulted some educators. Jack Markell was the co-chair that foisted this upon the American people and upon our children as well. and he is not in any way apologetic. That's the thing about leftists. They will not look at the data and say, we were wrong. They can't bring themselves to do it because they're embarrassed and they know that we told them they were wrong when they got started. This is a serious, serious matter, and if we're going to continue to raise little dummies, we're going to fall farther and farther behind the rest of the world. When you have a problem like this, we had a discussion on the air about it last week with some people who were talking about the fact, look, I know they're backing away from it slowly here in Idaho. That's what our discussion really centered on. They've already said, all right, we're going to remove some of these testing requirements for graduation. Why wait? Seriously, why do we have to say, well, all right, we'll have 3/4 Common Core, and then in a couple of years we'll go to half a Common Core, and then by 2025 we'll go to a 1/4 Common Core, and then by 2030 1/10 Common. Just get rid of it. You know who knows best how to teach your children and what your children need to learn, and who has the best expectations for your children? First, parents. Bring them into this. Number 2, local school boards, who are elected by parents. Oftentimes, maybe only a handful of parents, but still they're local people, and they know what the local needs are. And to sit here and say that some bureaucrat is more concerned about your child than you are in Twin Falls or Burley or Buell or Filer is baloney. The bureaucrat in Washington is living high on the hog, making $150,000 a year, sipping the finest Cabernet, living in some Tony suburb, and a belief in that bureaucrat's head that he or she is the smartest person in any room they walk into. It's just not the case. Their craniums aren't any larger than ours. 20 minutes away from 10 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Hey, I got a couple of other things I want to share with you, too, as well, if we get a chance before we wrap up the program. Some thoughts from some of these Republicans on the current race. Maybe we'll get back to that in a few minutes. As well as a story coming out of Texas. A teacher who refused to refer to a transgendered student by the student's imaginary new ID. The teacher has been fired. Details ahead.